Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to talk about a secret Ned Rig modification that I do to my jig heads whenever I want to get bigger bites on my Ned Rig. It's such a tiny presentation with a small bait that you catch a lot of small fish on it. But I'm going to show you a little trick that you can do to your Ned Rig that will get you bigger bites when you're throwing it. So stay tuned to the end of today's video. I'm going to show you how to do this two different ways, whether you want to do it the fancy way or the very easy way, just to make a quick adjustment while you're out there on the water. And before we get into today's video, I just got another piece for the boat in the mail today, so I wanted to show you guys, give you another little sneak peek. Unfortunately, the boat was delayed 2 more weeks. Hopefully we'll get it soon and be able to reveal it here on the channel, but we're going to give you one sneak peek to a piece of the electronics package here that we have. We got the active target. I'm so excited to use this thing. I've never used forward-looking sonar before, and it's all the craze, as everybody knows. So I'm very interested to see how this will work in catching some fish, be able to share it with you. And like I said, I can even screen record this and show you guys what I'm looking at while I'm out there on the water. But for now, let's talk about this quick modification that you want to do to your Ned Rig. We're going to be talking about the skirted Ned Rig right there. And I'm sure you're probably saying I can just go buy one of those in stores, but they're about $5 for 2 of them, so it sucks to when you lose a bunch of these on the bottom. So I'm going to show you an easy way to make these yourself and catch a bunch more fish. So the first way is just going to be with a simple, this is called a jig skirt making tool. It literally looks like a pen that is hollowed out in the middle with a point on the end. And I will take a jig skirt collar, which is very, very small there, and I will feed this onto my jig skirt tool and get it down onto the actual thing itself. Top part comes out like that. So now that's on just like that. I will take my wire, feed it up through there, and out the outside with the big hook on the end, just like that. And then as for material goes, I use something called finesse cut skirt material. This is jig skirt material. This is what's going to make it better than the store-bought ones. Sometimes they don't use the actual finesse cut stuff, and when they do that, they'll get kind of springy like that, where they puff out a whole bunch, where if you use the finesse cut stuff, it's a lot tighter and compact, and it flows a lot better through the water. I buy mine off fishingskirts.com. All I do is I pick one color that I want to be my main color. So I'm gonna use brown with this black stripe on this one. I'll use 1 tab of that, and then I will take an accent color. I'm gonna use a little bit of orange on this one, and I'll rip off like 6 to 8 strands, and you'll just pinch it off, leaving the tabs intact there so that you can pull it through your skirt material or your skirt maker. So it's starting to look like a jig skirt, and I'll take my big hook on the end and it'll hook through the skirt and on the tab, and then I'll pull it about halfway in on my tool, and I'll pop my jig skirt collar right down onto there. So now we have an actual jig skirt that can go on our Ned Rig here. What you want to do, as you can see, I did this deliberately. There's a longer side and a shorter side. You want to take the longer side and put it on first, because when it gets to your bait keeper, it's going to roll the skirt collar and it'll make the longer side shorter, so it'll make it about halfway. All you have to do is center it up in your jig skirt, go down through the collar, just like you're putting on a bait, and feed it all the way up your collar here till you get to the hook keeper, and pop it right over the hook keeper, which might take a little bit of work because it's meant to not have things go over it. So you kind of just have to feed it over, and then once it snaps on, you can feed it all the way up to the head there, and you'll have your skirt on. So now all you have to do is take a pair of scissors and trim it where you want it here. I have the hook right here. I'll probably trim it about right here and leave about a 1/4 inch on the hook there. So 1 snip through there, and we got ourselves a skirted Ned Rig. Looks awesome, looks like you just made it in the store. So you can make a ton of jig skirts just with that and be able to thread them up on your Ned Rig. Then you would just thread your Ned bait on there and you'd be good to go. Now, what's the downfall of using that jig skirt collar like I just showed you? The downfall is that, one, this can slide back and forth because it doesn't have a true keeper, so it can actually slide down to the end of this bait keeper here. The other downfall is because of where you have to put this jig skirt collar and how big it is, the bait keeper on here is no longer usable. So it holds your skirt on, but to keep your bait on here, you're gonna have to put a drop of super glue and then thread your bait on there, which is not a big deal. Your bait will stay on there forever if you do that. Just put a drop of super glue on the hook shank, thread your bait on. You'll have a skirted Ned rig that you're ready to use. Like I said, this method is for if you wanna do it the easiest way, the cheapest way. You can make this out of a pen and a paper clip, and you can buy the jig skirt material at pretty much any sporting goods store or online fishing store, and you can make some skirted Ned rigs for way cheaper. So let's zoom you in on the table here and we'll show you how to hand tie one of these. Either one of these methods work and you'll catch a bunch of fish, but the hand tie method is my favorite. So to start this, we have our hook in the vise with the hook point facing down. We have our hook keeper right here, and we don't want to cover this up too much. We still want to be able to use this to put our bait on there. So all we'll do is start our thread, just wrapping it on the shank of the hook right here, right behind the jig head. Then once we have just a little layer there for that to be able to sit, we will take one singular tab of whatever main color we want to use. So we're going to use brown today. We're going to put this on the hook shank. It's going to fall all over the place a little bit. What I'll do is I'll take one wrap and two, and that'll hold it in place, and then I can start to fold it around the jig head there to get it to sit where I want. So now I kind of have it spread around the jig head. I'll take a couple more wraps around, making sure not to catch any of the jig skirt material so that it looks natural. Then all I'll do is I'll take about a half to a quarter of a tab of an accent color. We're going to use orange here. We're going to throw that on the top here. We're going to come over the back side. This one you don't have to worry about putting it around the hook shank too much. I want it just on the bottom of my jig, but that's the nice part about hand tying it rather than using a jig skirt collar, is I can put this wherever I want it. I can layer things, I can mix them. Then all we'll do is just take a bunch of wraps right here and build up a little bit of a collar to make sure that everything's going to stay in place once we're done. And here's how you finish it off. You bring this back towards you, your bobbin, you take your fingers and make a loop, and then you'll take that loop, I need a bigger one here, you'll make sure you make it big enough that you can fit over this jig skirt material, and then once you put it around your bait, you just pull it tight like that. So then I'll make another loop, and I'll do this 3 or 4 times. This is called a half hitch. The last thing you want to do to finish this off is make sure your bait keeper is still exposed enough to be able to hold your Ned rig in place. So I'm good. All I will do is take my pair of scissors and cut my thread off. And it doesn't really matter how close it is, it's just going to be folded in there with the jig skirt anyway. And then what I will do is I'll come back here and I'll cut it not quite at the hook point. I won't stretch it either. I'll pull it out and I'll cut it about maybe ½ an inch beyond the hook point there, or the hook bend. I'll take the front of it here and I'll fold it back. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'll kind of line it up and go with the hook bend as well. And I'll cut it right there. And now we have a finished skirted Ned rig. Now the last thing I will do is I will take some super glue, or like I said, I use this head cement stuff here. I'll take that and I'll just brush it on where we tied the jig skirt in. And once you do that, that bait will stay together for a very long time. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video talking about this super simple Ned rig modification to catch you some bigger fish while you're out there on the water. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like down below and make sure you hit the subscribe button while you're down there. I'm gonna go out and actually fish this bait this weekend, and hopefully we'll catch some big smallmouth on it before it gets too cold up here in Pennsylvania. So if you wanna see this bait in action and actually catching fish, if you didn't believe me already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it, and thanks for watching.